In this video, I will discuss information security documents which are maintained by an organization to ensure the administration of security. So these documents are policies, standards, baselines, procedures, and guidelines. So policies are high level and rest all are uh, under policies and are low level documents. So these all documents are administrative security controls, and these are interlinked and guide organization overall security behavior. And chief information officer is responsible to create, update and manage all these documentations. So policy is high level and defines why and when with regards to security within an organization, and it defines the governing principles and rules and decide the security directions and guide security decisions and actions within an organization, and it can also initiate security programs. So policies cover broader security areas, and policy documents are long term and therefore subjected to less frequent change. However, these changes are periodic to review and to update the policy documents, especially once there is a major change in the security environment of an organization. So, different types of policies are company wide policies, system specific policies, and issue specific policies. So, disaster recovery policies and change management policies are company wide. Acceptable usage policy and access control policies are system specific, and incident response policies are issue specific. Now, next document is standard, uh, which enforces the policy, and it defines the what requirements of uh, security. For example, specific security requirements of specific security behavior and specific security actions. And standards are mandatory like policies, especially once they are enforced by the law. For example, Federal Information Processing Standard FIPS 140-2 is developed by NIST, and it is mandatory to follow for government agencies, and it is a security requirement for cryptographic modules, and it defines the permitted encryption devices within United States. So next document is the baseline, which is just like standard, and it also satisfy policy. And baselines relates to the system, network, and devices baselines, and these are the specific configurations of uh, these entities. And these are minimum standard or minimum security requirements. So, on the top of baseline, you can further use scoping guidelines, which are part of baselines, to select different subsets of controls, but you have to satisfy the minimum security requirements of baselines. Then you can tailor these controls or modify these controls. So baselines are minimum security standards or requirements. Then procedures are the actual implementation of how to implement a specific security requirement. So these are step by step guide, and these are also mandatory to follow, just like policies, uh, standard and baseline. So these certify the policy, standard and baseline. These are mandatory, and certain examples are vulnerability scanning uh, procedures, backup and restore procedures, account provisioning procedures, or patch management procedures. Furthermore, there are certain non-information security related procedures, for example, HR procedures or transaction procedures, which a chief information officer is responsible to manage. Oh. Next documentation is the guideline. So the policies, standards, baseline, and procedures are mandatory, and guideline is not mandatory. It is just for information. So it is similar to standard, and it is very specific. And but these are recommendations and suggestions, and they can satisfy or refer to policies, and they also are aligned with the standard and baseline requirements, or sometimes they are to guide the implementation of standard or baseline. The examples may include the certified information system security professional common body of knowledge. So these are security guidelines. Then the International Organization of Standardization, or National Institute of Science and Technology, and IT Infrastructure Library. These are also the guidelines. But once you decide to certify against these, then you have to mandatory follow, and it would become a standard for you. Now, the manufacturer default configurations are also an example of guidelines. And there are industry specific guidelines, and there are also some independent guidelines like uh, Open Web Application Security Project guidelines, which are the guidelines to ensure the security of web applications. So overall, uh, the security is high level, and then standard is define the security requirements to implement the policy, and then the baselines are minimum security requirements or minimum standards, and you can tailor the baseline, but you have to meet the baseline security requirement. And then the procedures are step by step implementation process, or the implementation steps which are mandatory, and guidelines in all these documents are not mandatory but suggestions. This was all. Thank you.